This week's kip is on Macbeth, and the question is going to be, starting with this moment in the play, explore how Shakespeare presents the witches and the supernatural. So remembering that it's midway through the portion, so there are more parts to this than just this section here. I'm going to read through it now and then I'm going to go through the bits I've highlighted. So the third witch says, scale of dragon, tooth of wolf, witch's mummy, morton gulf, of the ravine, salt sea shark, root of hemlock, digged in the dark, liver of blaspheming Jew, gall of goat and slips of yew. Slivered in the moon's eclipse, nose of Turk and Tartar's lips, finger of birth strangled babe, ditch delivered by a drab, make the gruel thick and slab, and thereto a tiger's chaldron for the ingredients of our cauldron. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Cool it with a baboon's blood, then the charm is firm and good. Oh, well done, I commend your pains, and every one shall share in the gains. And now about the cauldron sing, like elves and fairies in a ring, enchanting all that you put in. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Open locks, whoever knocks. So the first thing that I've highlighted is the scale of dragon, which you can see there that I've said that Shakespeare here is highlighting the strength and the power of the supernatural, that they can gain access to body parts of mythical creatures. So creatures that people thought didn't exist. Now, some scholars will argue that since James I had a fascination with witchcraft and sorcery, he would have been interested in the ingredients. Therefore, some of the ingredients that go into the potion would be impossible to gain access to, other than if you were in league with the supernatural like the witches are. If you're going to push yourself now for 7+, then you need to focus on this theme of dismemberment that is repeated throughout the course of the ingredients. Perhaps you could talk about Shakespeare's potential foreshadowing of what happens to Macbeth later on in the play when his own head is dismembered and placed on a spike. But clearly here you've got some quite appalling, disgusting ingredients that are dismembered. So you've got nose, finger, liver, eye of newt, scale of dragon, tooth of wolf. It's all about this taking body parts from animals or human beings. Metaphorically, you could talk about how this links to the breaking up of Scotland, with the witches being instrumental in bringing about the destruction of order by introducing Macbeth to the prophecies, which have led him to therefore disrupt the natural order and bring about chaos. One that I've highlighted is the finger of a birth strangled babe, ditch delivered by a drab, which is a baby that has been delivered by a prostitute, which is what a drab is. And what I've said is that it's a depraved act to kill a newborn baby to then dismember a part and keep it for a portion. So it just again shows how the supernatural brings an immensely wicked, evil element to the play. I've highlighted that all the witches together sing double double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, because it's sinister, because the witches are speaking in unison. The fact that they know the chant, it's this spell-like song that they are all singing together, emphasises the power that they have. I've highlighted the quote where it says, cool it with a baboon's blood. Firstly, because of the use of plosive alliteration, Plosive, which is harsh, but also it juxtaposes the previous reference to blood, which shows Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's guilt. Earlier on in the play, Macbeth says, blood will have blood, meaning that the blood of a murder victim will seek out the blood of their murderer, and thus a murderer will always be brought to light. So therefore it's ironic that blood is a component of the potion It's important as an ingredient because it completes the charm. The witches then say the charm is now firm and good. Therefore, the irony comes in Macbeth drinking this blood. It provokes him to go on a further murderous rampage and thus ensures his descent into madness. And the final point I'm going to highlight is the second witch at the end. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. In the sense that it is ironic that the witches, who represent the supernatural, the diabolical, heinous, depraved, sinister, sadistic force of destruction in the play, can then actually state that Macbeth is the evil, is the something wicked that is making an entrance. So I think it's important to note that in the extract that the witches who represent evil and the supernatural are then acknowledging Macbeth as also another form of evil. So thank you for listening to the extract where the witches are obviously preparing the potion for Macbeth. That's an important part of the play that links to the supernatural and the witches. However, there are more parts of the play that you need to consider and now revise yourself. So I'm going to make a list of these on the next slide. So the first one is the witches meeting, and when they say fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through fog and filthy air. And then later on, Macbeth says this as his first line in the play. So foul and fair I have not seen. Number two is when the witches make the prophecies to Macbeth. All hail Thane of Glamis, all hail Thane of Cawdor, all hail he who shall be king. Third one is the witches and the importance of the supernatural in creating a threat out of Banquo and making Macbeth become suspicious and paranoid of his best friend, because the witches say lesser than Macbeth and greater. You will get kings but not be a king. Number 4 is the powerful Lady Macbeth who calls on the supernatural. If you really want to go for context here and get grade 7+, talk about how she subverts our expectation of not just a woman, of any Jacobean member of society who is brave enough to command evil spirits. Number 5 is an important link to the supernatural because it's Macbeth's hallucination, which here the supernatural allows us as an audience to consider Macbeth's weakness, the fact that he's got conflicting emotions about killing the king, the fact that he is already using the supernatural as an excuse to fulfill his own ambition, which his is hamartia. This one is an obscure one. It's when Ross is talking to the old man. The old man first mentions a mouse in oil, hawks up to a falcon and kills the falcon, which again shows the unnatural chaos that Macbeth has brought about by killing the king. Then Ross responds with, and that's not the only unusual thing that has happened, he's saying that the beautiful creatures, the horses that belonged to the king, broke out of their stables, went wild and made war with mankind before they set upon each other and started eating each other. So the king's horses become cannibalistic horses. Then you've got an obvious one that everybody remembers, which is the public downfall of Macbeth. It's when he sees Banquo's ghost. Lady Macbeth gets annoyed and frustrated with him, and she says, when all is done, you look but on a stool. Macbeth at this point is completely distressed, and he's never shake thy gory locks at me. So that's an important one. Now, I've heard 2 pronunciations for this, Hecate or Hecate, But either way, she is the leader of the witches, and she is important because she tells the witches off for interfering with Macbeth without her. However, when she does become involved, she then states to the witches that in order to really bring about the downfall of Macbeth, we have to make him feel secure. She says security is man's chiefest enemy. Then you've got the potion scene that we've just looked at, and we've just pulled out a few quotations from that of the appalling, disgusting, diabolical ingredients, shown the sinister side of the supernatural and how it's used to manipulate Macbeth into the visions and to cause him to act upon what the witches have said. And then the final one that I've then pulled out is the supernatural when Lady Macbeth, ironically, sees blood on her hands, and it is ironic because she mocks Macbeth for his vision, and now it's a role reversal and she is the weaker character who cannot handle the guilt and is therefore hallucinating. And again, you've got that motif of the blood as well. I just wanted to say thank you for listening. I hope that you have realised that I've managed to try and slow it down this time, because quite a few students have come to me and said that the videos were just too fast and they couldn't quite hear. So good luck for your kip on Thursday or Friday.